But right now, we're going to hear a few words from Cole NeSmith, who is the, what's your title?
Founder, artistic director.
Founder and artistic director of Immerse, which we'll be experiencing this evening, and an awesome foundation recipient, and a friend of many years, and mover and shaker in town. So, Mr. Cole NeSmith.
Hi. Hello. Thanks for having me today. I wanted to talk a little bit about beyond your awesome dollar. Your dollars obviously make significant impact, and you all see that on a monthly basis as you invest in individuals and projects. But for me, in experiencing a lot of the people who are part of the Central Florida chapter of Awesome Foundation, I think there have been some significant things that they've given to me beyond that financial investment. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about how that has impacted what we do over the last 14 years. All of this that is now Immersed started in 2012 with me realizing I had so many wonderful creative friends, musicians, dancers, actors. I grew up as a musician. I grew up as an actor. I love being on stage. I don't get to do it much anymore, but for me, that was such a formational experience growing up as a kid and having those moments and being part of theater and understanding community through the lens of theater. And I think that shaped so much of what I do now as facilitating a lot of other creative people doing their creative things. And so in 2012, I called a bunch of those creative friends, musicians, and asked them to play their guitar on the street corner, and dancers, asking them to create some sort of interactive dance experience in a vacant lot here in downtown. Because I recognized that I had all these creative friends, and I got to experience the joy and beauty of who they are and what they make and what they do. But so much of our community doesn't go into the spaces where they're creating. And so it really was built on this belief that if I could introduce these people to the rest of our Central Florida community, it would have a positive impact on who we are as a people, how people perceive our community. We have, and I don't know, how many people have said this so far, 75 million visitors who come to Central Florida every year, more than any other city in the United States, and 99.9% of them have a very narrow experience of who we are. They do not come to this place. They do not walk these streets. They do not encounter what you're going to encounter tonight, and they don't know the people that you will meet tonight, whether they're on stage or across the streets of the city. They get on a bus, they go to Disney and Universal, and we're grateful for those entities. They employ a lot of our creative community, which has an incredible positive impact on who we are as a people. But wanted to continue to elevate and cultivate our community as a place known for creativity. And so that is kind of the origin of what we did. And that very first year in 2012, we did a performance every day during the month of October, or some sort of art experience. Some of those were very small, a blanket in Lake Eola Park with art supplies welcoming people to come paint on a mini canvas, a small example. A big example was totally on a whim. I called Orlando Ballet, didn't know anybody there, really wasn't all that connected to our arts community at the time, and said, hey, we're trying to do this thing where we're activating something in the public space every day during the month of October, want to do something. They rehearsed a version of Thriller, came down at one of our business plazas and performed that during the lunch hour a couple times. And it was very much, as people came upon it, it was a surprising and delightful experience for them. On another whim, Googled Cirque du Soleil, La Nuba, Orlando, and found a phone number, and through a series of conversations ended up connecting with their marketing director at the time. And another great benefit, we have a residency of Cirque du Soleil here, 365 days a year, which is an incredible asset to our community. At the time, the show was called La Nuba, and I said, hey, we're doing this thing every day during the month of October, want to do something with us? Their origins, they were a group of friends who got on stilts and walked across a province of Canada and just did this public art thing. So I knew at the heart of who they were was this idea of investment of artists in the community. And they said, sure, we'll do something. So we kind of got permission to do something at City Hall that day. Not really sure yet whether or not if we did or did not get permission for this, but that was October 30th. It was the last Friday of that October in 2012, and we had gained some momentum just by doing a small thing every day. And we started telling people as much as we could, because social channels weren't what they are now, but we started telling people as much as we could, like, hey, Cirque du Soleil is bringing some people down to City Hall Plaza, so come during your lunch break. And by noon that Friday, there were a couple thousand people in that business plaza right there in front of City Hall, which was great. And up rolls Cirque du Soleil in a big tour bus, and 25 of their artists pile out of the tour bus and come to the business plaza, and they do this beautiful original 35-minute performance right there in the middle of the city. And kids from some of our schools that are in the downtown area had come with their classes, and we have a couple retirement homes that are high rises here in downtown. It was just this beautiful diversity of age and people that had come down to experience this thing, and it was just so delightful. And after that, a month of work by a couple people who wanted to do a thing, it was like, okay, that was a lot, and it gained some momentum. What do we want to do next? Is this a thing, or was this just a thing that happened? So that, for me, is kind of the first step of beyond the financial investment, connection. So many people, Terry especially, who you've gotten to know over the last day or so, is a connector. And again, I was making random cold calls and got some yeses, but every day during the month of October is a lot of people to find to come out and do a thing. And Keith, who you'll hear from later today, I think, was one of those people that Terry connected us to. Incredible composer. Are you going to talk about what you did? So I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to let him tell you later what they brought. But it was not one of the small things where you put a blanket out and invite people to paint. He'll tell you about this incredible thing that he did later today that involved a couple dozen musicians and rooftops and other surprises that he'll tell you about. But that was one of those things that beyond just the financial investment that you all are committed to was so helpful for us and connecting us with other artists. And then subsequent to that month in 2012, when we were asking what's next for this, the connection continued. Terry continued to help connect us to people like Hal over here. Right here in this building, actually, on the second floor, there was a theater at the time, and Terry said, hey, I think that what you guys did has some legs to it. What if I gather some people for you to tell them about maybe what the future of this could look like? And so, a couple dozen people upstairs in this theater, and I made a little presentation and talked about this new thing called Wikipedia and how a bunch of people are collaborating to create an online dictionary. And what if we did that with artists? What if we gathered all the artists and created this unique thing that people could come and experience, and it would add value? And so kind of presented that vision a couple months or years. Honestly, it's all the same time to me. He gathered people again at actually Ford Keeney, who was a significant investor in this facility, had at the time he lived in a high-rise here, and Terry gathered another couple dozen people who were investors in arts and invited me to come and talk to them about what we were doing. And those kinds of connections continued to happen. And that was so instrumental for us, because there is that time, I think, in the life of so many artists and organizers in saying, did we just do a thing or did we start a thing? And I think those connections that were made for us were instrumental in helping us take that from a thing that happened to a thing that can exist and grow and morph and serve the community in a compelling way. So we turned the event into an organization in 2013. And it was Creative City Project, and then we continued to produce that event. But then we started producing other things in the community, started elevating other artists and doing other fun events. We, for example, did an event last year called Anthology. It was the third time we had done that event, and it's original fiction paired with craft cocktails strung together by live jazz music. And so we do that in fun, beautiful environments. We invite local fiction writers to come and read their stories live. We work with local cocktail makers to create original cocktails, and we create a nice event out of it. This past year, our third iteration of that, we actually went to poetry, and so we had an ensemble of about 20 who performed those poems in a beautiful environment, and they were all kind of pastiched around the elements, and so there were 5 different sections of poetry that had been spun together by this incredible director and producer here named Eridana Tawari. And so we platformed that ensemble and that producer to create something really meaningful and significant. And as we started creating other events, it was clear that, okay, we have an organization called Creative City Project. What is this festival that we're doing? And that's when we went through a branding exercise and said, hey, let's call this thing Immerse. That's really about what it is. That is really what it's about. We want to create experiences that audiences can't have anywhere else in the world. And so over the last decade and a half almost, we take those Cirque du Soleil artists and hang them from cranes, and you'll see that tonight. Blue Man Group is a big collaborator with us, and so excited to be not just a resident show that happens in the tourist corridor, but an integral part of our creative community. And then, they will be on the same stage as the Lake Mary High School Unity Step Team, which is an incredibly passionate group of young women who bring their talent and gifting to that same stage. And frankly, I think our audiences respond in a similar way to both of those organizations, a global organization that is like a household name across the world, and this high school step team who is like given a platform that's a bigger one than they've ever had before. And their instructor who oversees that and has been tracking with them, and at this point, generations of young women who have come through that organization. And it's something that they look forward to every year. It's something they create for. Just last night, I saw one of the performances by this group of young Indian women who created a short film that plays on the big LED screen upstage, and then they wrote a script about the tension of their tradition Indian culture and their relationships to their parents in that tradition, and their lives outside of that as these young women living in the United States, and the tension of it, and the beauty of it, and the challenge of it, and the conversations they have. And then all of that is tied together by both traditional dance, Indian dance, and like modern American, like hip hop dance. And it's just this beautiful thing that as I was sitting there, I was like, these young women created not just some dance that represents their culture, they thought about what it was that they were experiencing in their lives on a day-to-day basis. They thought about how they can create a short film that is between all of their dance performances to tell that story. And I think there are just a lot of really beautiful things that have emerged from providing a platform like Immerse. And I hope that you see some of those names that you'll recognize tonight, but also some of those unusual and unexpected surprises that to me are just as significant and meaningful as anything else that's downtown this weekend. So the second thing that has been really helpful for me over the years is this idea of like seeing something in people and telling them about it. I think sometimes we see, okay, we're reviewing these applications and we're going to give this month to this project and that money is going to help them. But I think for a lot of artists, you've heard artists and creative people talk about imposter syndrome. I think that is so real. When people see Immerse, they don't necessarily see all of the failures behind that, all of the difficult moments, all of the challenges, all of the struggles, all of the fighting, all of the trying to make it happen, and the struggle of bringing that to life. And I think when those things are paired in the life of an artist, it really changes their self-perception of what they're making. And so I would encourage you all, as you give to each of these projects and individuals, to consider what are the words that can accompany your dollars? How can you just as maybe valuable, or in some cases more valuable than the dollars that you invest in their projects, what are the words that you can tell them about why you've selected their project? What have you seen in them? What can you say to them to affirm in them, hey, we believe in what you're doing and here's why? And be as specific as possible about it. Tonight, there is a group performing called the Orlando Vocal Collective that you have to look at the schedule and make sure you go see. It's a group of about 20 musicians. All of them are local here to Orlando. If you go and see their performance, it will be mind-blowing to you. Like, I can promise you that. About 16 of them are vocalists, and then they have a band that's playing with them. And I mean, the vocal talent and perfection and dynamism that you experience from the Orlando Vocal Collective is frankly unparalleled. Like, I very much want you to make sure that you carve that out in your schedule tonight. But that was this guy, Chris Keogh. He's 29. He moved to Orlando when he was 19. He has sung at Disney World for the last 10 years. He's an incredible singer, a great arranger, but also a really fantastic leader. And so last year we said to Chris, hey, well, Chris kind of came to us, the conversation happened, and we said, all right, what do you want to do? And he kind of laid out this vision of fusion, an arrangement that is a fusion between Michael Jackson and Beyonce music. And bringing together 16 of these singers with the band and creating this 16-minute performance that was just like, last year people walked away from it being like, what was that? It was so amazing. And he started that organization, and he did that thing because Immerse said, yes, we will support you in doing this. And not only we will support you financially, but we'll help you along the way. We'll help you understand the production needs. And also, like, for me, I've been really intentional with him to say, hey, I know that you've been singing this in this environment for the last decade, but I think that you have the ability to do something a little bit more scalable than that. And so they did that last year. Then they turned that into a 90-minute live show that they ran at a theater for an entire run that was sold out. And now they're back again this year with a fusion of Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey music, and it is just perfection. And so to know that, like, there's this kind of twofold thing of, yeah, we'll support you from a financial and logistical perspective, but also, like, we see you, Chris, and we believe and recognize in who you are. And here are the very specific things that we see you have the capability of doing. I think there are a lot of people, I think all of us actually, as we are growing and learning and emerging as individuals in the world, that we don't actually know or have the ability to necessarily perceive the best things we have to contribute to the world. And so when other people can see those things in us, identify them, and then tell us about them, I think it really goes a long way in the process of people who are creating things to believe, I can do this, and other people see I can do this, and other people are telling me I can do this. I think it's a really powerful tool as we overcome that idea of imposter syndrome. 2 more minutes, how's that, right? So then one of the things that I've learned as we come alongside of artists and support them, this third idea of investing in gatherers. I recognize that Immerse, while we produce some of the things that you'll see here in downtown this weekend, most of what you'll see this weekend are people who have gathered other people to make a thing alongside of them. And our event and our cultural community here in Central Florida is only as strong as those communities of artists who are gathering throughout the year. If those communities of artists do not gather throughout the year and people don't have a home like what Chris has created with Orlando Vocal Collective and all those talented musicians who now are so excited to gather together to rehearse and to perform and to do their thing and to bring something totally unique, if those communities gathering throughout the year don't exist, then I think our cultural communities and our artistic communities don't exist. And so investing in gatherers has become a kind of a hallmark of what we're doing in the same way that we invested in Chris Keogh to start Orlando Vocal Collective. There's another organization here that will be in this plaza, like adjacent to this building tonight, called Assemblage. Every 4th Tuesday of the month, they do an event here at City Arts where they invite people to come and they do wine tastings, and then people can create their own wine blend. And so they're gathering people around that. But they also have kind of a bigger vision of that you'll see as an expression of what they're doing outside called Assemblage House. So they've transformed this open space here on the side of the building into a gathering space. And Chris, another Chris, who owns Assemblage and kind of cultivated Assemblage House, has gathered some DJs with their own communities and following. He's also gathered some vendors that are back here as well. And last night about 10:30, I came over here after kind of like I had seen all the things and tended to what I needed to tend to over there, and came over here, and it was just this incredible vibe. And you could tell that people were connecting in a really special way. And so Chris, what he did there was he brought together these musicians, and he brought together these vendors, and he brought together some curatorial talent that created the space out there. And so investing in somebody like Assemblage and Assemblage House and what they're doing, to know we're not just giving a guy with an idea money to do a thing. We're giving a guy with a passion to gather creative people for a mutual outcome that has a long-term vision, has so much long-term impact in helping ensure that we have a vibrant cultural community that continues to elevate us and propel us and allow us to do what we're doing. And I would say the last thing that I think is so helpful, I know that we live busy lives, and I actually think Awesome Foundation is awesome in one of the ways that it's kind of like, I think it's a quick way to get people supportive money, which I love so much about it. And so it gives busy people the ability to like, okay, we'll review these applications, let's get them this investment, let's let them do their thing, let's make this nimble. But follow-up can be really helpful too. And so, as much as you can attend the things that you support, I think that means so much to those artists. But even if you can't attend, just sending like a message after their thing comes to life and saying, hey, here's why we believed in you, here's why we invested in you, and congratulations, this is what we saw as the outcome of what you've done, and we're thankful for that. I think those words mean so much to artists, and it reminds them like people are listening. I did a couple interviews yesterday in the streets down here as news crews come down here, and they ask a lot of questions. And one of the things I found myself talking about a few times yesterday was Orange County loves Immerse when it's here and they're downtown and they're excited about it. City of Orlando loves Immerse when they're here and it's happening and they're downtown in the midst of the energy and they're seeing what's happening. But on Monday, when they got to think about trash collection and they got to think about utilities and they got to think about getting reelected, they're not thinking about Immerse. And so just the ongoing sense of reminding people of what we're doing and why we're doing it and why it's important and why it's valuable to their interests and all of the things. To know that somebody is sending communication the other way and just saying, hey, we saw what you did and that's why we invested in you and congratulations, means a ton. So thanks for what you do from a financial investment standpoint, and thanks, I'm sure all of you have in some ways done some of the things that I've been talking about, but those are things that have been really instrumental to us to continue to build what you see and experience tonight. A few things that I want to make sure that you know about when you go to Immerse tonight. I already mentioned Orlando Vocal Collective, so see that. Down here at Dr. Phillips Center, on that lawn, you'll see those names like Blue Man Group and Cirque du Soleil, but also down there on that Dr. Phillips Center stage is an organization out of West Palm Beach called Mesh. I saw them last year at one of our stages. It was a surprise to me when I saw them because I'm not, I don't know everything that's going to happen. But when I saw them last year, I was just standing there actually at that stage waiting for Blue Man Group to come and perform, and they got on stage and they had live dancers and live musicians and fire, and they at the end of their performance took this giant sheet and spread it out over the entire audience, and I was just dancing with strangers in the middle of the street, and I was like, this is what Immerse is. So I texted our programming team last year and I was like, we need to do more with these people. And so we've been collaborating with them over the last year. It's not a name that you're going to know when you look in the program, but you have to go see what they've brought to Immerse this year because it is full of surprises that I think will delight you. So thanks for having me today. Thanks for what you do. I hope this has been helpful. Thanks.